is my Monday, so.
Okay. When we're ready. All righty, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Inclusivity meeting. It is 5:41, April 25th, 2023, and we're going to begin by taking attendance. And I think we'll just go around the room and around the Zoom and shout out our names. Van, start us off, please.
Van Hunsaker.
Jessica Andrade.
Jane Sherwood.
Christopher McMorrin. And
Say your name.
There we go.
People on the Zoom.
Yeah. On our Zoom, shout out your name, please.
Nora Smith. Nora Smith.
Zena Allen. And Rose Bricker.
There we go. Well, welcome everybody. So our next thing on the list here is to approve our minutes from February 28th, 2023. Do we have any changes in February's minutes that we noted?
Well, that we found out before our meeting started that Rose Bricker is not a member of the committee, so should not be down there by my name.
Yes.
Others in attendance.
We made that note.
And otherwise, can I make a motion?
I mean, we don't operate by emotions,
Oh.
but if
that's
you want
right.
to for fun.
No, that's right. I forgot about that.
Okay, so February's, other than that one change, we're good. How about March 28th meeting?
I don't think Teresa Nielsen was here
I missed that. Thank you.
for committee members.
You are correct. That is another thing.
Okay. Urgent business.
Or well, first,
Oh.
are there any objections to either of the minutes?
No objections. Okay. Now
Then we're good.
onward to urgent business. I'll get the hang of this yet.
You're doing a good job.
Yes, you are.
No urgent business. Okay, so we're going to.
Okay.
My bad.
I don't know if this is urgent business or not, but I think that it's important to say I thought about it, and I think that we might want to consider reaching out to Jason Dorsett to do our training. I think that going with the college, it's too big, maybe. And I think that Jason, he knows the community and he lives here. And I think I don't know. So I don't know if it's urgent, but I'd like to put that out there. I think smaller might be better, more intimate might be better.
I think we could do both.
Yeah, I think we already went ahead with the other one.
Okay.
For discussion.
Do.
Mhm.
But I think we still have money left. in that
Yeah.
line item, So we could just
Okay.
add another.
Like additional.
Okay.
Because it's costing like 3,500.
5,000.
Okay, so we still got what, like 4,000?
Well, I don't know if all of that is for the DEI training necessarily,
Sure.
but yeah, the intention isn't supposed to be one and done. It's very much an ongoing thing and starting with OSU. And that was moving on to the update.
Yes, that was the update.
That was the update, is council approved
Yes.
the $5,000 towards the OSU training.
Mhm.
But yeah, Zena, we definitely want to look into that more. Thank you for bringing that up.
That was the one that Diane Crocker had
Mhm,
talked
Mhm.
about and arranged, or connected with
mhm.
him about.
And are you planning to schedule the OSU training this fiscal year?
It'll be next fiscal year.
Oh, next fiscal year?
Yeah.
You know, if we can carry over this.
If we said we wanted to and we did.
Well,
Well,
So if we
Chris
have
had
not
told
said
us
that-
that we couldn't do that.
well, Chris works for us, to be fair.
We can,
No, that's true. I just meant that, like, Chris
Right.
told us that, therefore that's the only reason why I'm
the
saying. it.
funds couldn't be,
Yeah,
Well, yeah, the money can't be carried over.
but you
Right,
They
we
just-
just, we just
they just
allocate the
budget
exact
that
same amount next year.
money.
Yeah.
And that's what,
Let's
do
do
you think
that.
that that's been done? That there's,
I don't think
adequate
that's, I don't
funding
think
or-
that's in the city council budget right now, but we can add it.
okay, I will make a note to
Okay.
talk to.
Well,
finance
actually, I have
director
the
about
budget in my.
Well, I think,
but
like you said, the 10,000 is there.
I guess I'm just saying, like, I would prioritize that more personal training than us first going with the college. I think that, yeah,
well,
I just am saying, I get why we want, the college, but I'm just like, I don't know if if we prioritize that first, if that's what, I mean, I feel like this is about local networking, and this is about connecting with people in our communities and on lots of different levels. And so I'm not against the OSU training. I'm just saying,
yeah, I understand that, Zena, and I appreciate that, especially local is great. And thankfully, OSU is local, although like
Mhm.
a larger place. I think the fact that council has already signed off on going with OSU, we've had the discussions already, we're making progress, that we should move ahead with OSU and then look-
okay.
Jason.
So I guess I'm just like, we also, if you're doing that, I think that it's important for you to look at what has been the culture of OSU around things like color and race and things like that, and how that's been handled.
Yes.
And I think that has not been handled very well. And it's just, I'm just saying, like, there's definitely a time and a place, and it's great, but I think that we need to look at, again, it's better to move with purpose and intention than to be like, this is, I mean, yeah.
I completely understand what you're saying. I think for the sake, though, of the years that we've been talking about this, that we've made a decision with the time that we decided to allocate towards it. And to go back now would be to not waste time, but it would be an inefficient use of our time. I think moving forward, we'll do better about looking for places like working with Jason to
Okay, I guess I'm just saying, if we are, again, maybe who we think we are trying to be, I think we need training from people in these communities, and
yes.
that is not necessarily what we're going to be offered at OSU in that way. And so I guess I'm just like, yeah, it's time intensive, but I mean, I guess I just would Google the history and what they have to offer right now. Anyways, but I will, yeah, I've noted, and that's how I feel.
Thank you.
And just circling back then, there is $10,000 for education and training for next fiscal year.
Okay,
And
That is that just the
A
whole
new-
council training
Yes.
budget?
A new amount.
Entirely.
yeah, that's the council training budget for next year.
So we
So-
can add the dollars from this year that are unspent
We could
in a different
propose
way.
that. But
Well, I
it's
think you
not-
could just propose increasing the budget
Right,
if
that's
you're
what I-
thinking,
Yeah,
yeah,
not
because
just
that,
right, because that's for other
right. 'cause
training as well.
I think from what I understood, I think Chris budgeted the same amount because
Right.
we didn't spend
spend
this
that.
fiscal year.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
We spent 4,000 of our 10,000 this year, so I think we need 14,000 next year.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, maybe if we're gonna do another training,
But then if with 10,000 next year, we still have the money to do like 3 different trainings. I
it's
don't know.
inflation, Chris.
You
You don't know how
Well,
much things are gonna
listen,
cost.
I'm not trying to
I
tell
mean, if the
people what
line
to do. If
item's in
we-
there and we have unspent funds that we can.
Right. I mean, I guess unless if there's something else we want to spend that money on this year, but that seems tight.
Is that before June
July.
30th?
Yeah.
I suppose, if anything, that's what an amended budget is for also. We could
Right.
always do that later.
And can we schedule the training and pay for it and then just, when did the training? No. It has to be performed in this fiscal year, not just paid for.
Yeah, that's very frowned upon for the city to prepay for things.
When is
Unless it's
the,
like sometimes you can do like maybe a deposit situation if the band instructor was with that, so that might be an option.
did I
I-
miss when it's scheduled for?
No, I emailed Chris to ask him how to move forward with that, and he hasn't gotten back to me yet. I'll send him a follow-up email today.
Beautiful.
And we just have to, I think we just have to keep remembering that this is the first step, we're moving into taking care of the first step and then moving on, these topics that we want to cover,
Agreed.
just, we have to start somewhere and baby steps moving forward. So. Okay, so are there any other announcements for today?
I don't know if it's an announcement, but we'll get to it later. I think just Oriana is not here. She had to leave for a family issue, so she and I were not able to touch base on our topic, but Chelsea has a memo that's somewhat related to our topic, but just to say I can't offer our insight on these things.
Okay.
I've not had a chance to
So
talk to her,
so we can probably table,
yeah, I mean, I think it might still be worth looking
or just
over.
we can look at it, but
Looking over the
then,
memo, but there, I don't have any action
Right.
items to report,
Okay.
so yes.
okay, that sounds good. Okay, so our next order of business is looking at a community webpage. And did everyone get a chance to look at that item in our packet?
So I'll just say that it came about because, well, I had asked Ruth for advice on how to have an outward facing presence in a way that we can share resources and stuff, but not get in trouble with needing to update continuously or not quite knowing what the review process would be like for putting things up. And anyway, this memo is what she had come up with. I also asked her about ways to share things among ourselves that isn't necessarily, that wouldn't necessarily go onto the webpage, but I know that sometimes people like to send things food for thought and just, and I haven't heard back about how to go about doing that besides just doing what we've been doing, which is just forwarding, and sorry for people getting that double. But
I do think she's still looking into that. I
Oh,
talked to her
okay.
a little bit about this,
Cool.
so I'd have a little bit of an idea of where she was coming from.
Yeah.
And she's still looking for options. It's just,
Yeah, I know
kind
she's
of-
very thorough.
and it's complex, I think, with the
Laws.
public records and how people have, if people are able to delete things or not delete things. So I think
Exactly.
she's trying to still find a solution for that.
That's totally cool.
I wonder if it would be something that would be more available if it was in print rather than posted. You can't change the text on a piece of paper like you can.
You mean like posting PDFs or something, or what do you mean?
Well, I didn't think that there's a way that you can post things without anybody physically going in and changing the wording. But maybe it would be like a, not like a newsletter, because then that makes it long and drawn out, but like a monthly blurb, like a little blurb about like an overall summary of what April's meeting was about, just an overall view, so people kind of know what we're doing, but not in super detail. Like we talked about, we talked about the DEI meetings, and we talked about how we can try to pull different things together to include the town of Philomath. I don't even know, I'm just babbling, but maybe it would be something if it was on paper or a PDF, something that can't be changed versus something that someone can get in and change the wording to suit their needs or something.
Well, I guess I'd suggest we wait and see
Yes.
what Ruth comes
Yeah.
up with.
Yeah.
Because it is.
I think some of the
legal
difficulties,
issues.
right, is just, like as staff, we know record retention laws and what you can and can't do. Plus, we have a system here, a network that even if we delete something, our network is backing that up. So I think that's what Ruth is trying to find, so that if you did,
Cool.
let's say that you had a place where you're dumping items in and then Jessica says, oh, I didn't want that. How do you resolve that issue if you're not internally on a network that backs it up? So.
And it's probably got higher security, so it's not hackable as easily.
Sure, and
People
those are
can't
some of the
get in.
considerations, right?
So
Yeah.
people can't get in and change.
Right.
Things.
But the good news is she did mention it, so it's still on her.
Yeah,
her
cool.
brain.
I figured
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah.
As far as this webpage, I'm not one that understands all that. I'll say that up front. But all of these different things that she's talking about putting on there, for the Inclusivity Committee. I mean, I think that all looks neat to me.
Really good.
Mhm.
I totally agree. Just kind of like our discussion at the last meeting, we were touching on these things, so that I agree with that.
I mean, and she's saying it's a rough draft, so if we had any ideas,
Can add.
add
Mhm.
or not put in or whatever,
Mhm.
I think that's all fair game, but I like that concept.
Right, yeah. The content looks good.
I guess to that point, then, does anyone have any suggestions to it?
It's really thorough, I think.
Very cool.
Okay. Did you want to talk about the Fred Chop reaching out from?
Oh, has Chris talked to you at all about that? No, Rotary
Okay,
stuff?
well, let's wait.
No.
Okay.
No, we should wait for that.
Okay.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay,
So we agree that would like her to, Ruth to move ahead
to
with
move ahead,
this.
yeah.
Yes.
Anyone out in the back 40 where Zena actually is? She's way out there in the country. Any other feedback about the website that I can get back to Ruth?
Sound good out there? Okay. Okay, I heard it sounds good. Okay, so next then, we were talking, so we're gonna hold off on Chris and Oriana's conversation at the, or would you like to
I
talk a
think
little bit about that? Or-
this is still worth talking about. This is all we have.
Okay,
Start.
It is.
yeah,
It's a great start.
Great start.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yes,
good.
thank you so much for putting it together,
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Yes. I hope it was helpful. I wasn't really sure what you were looking for, so.
I wasn't entirely sure either.
Some of this is maybe what Jessica was looking for, could be a little summary of that. And then I wrote this a while ago and it didn't make it, I think, into at least one meeting. So
Mhm.
I did look back over it again, but yeah, I think I don't need to reread it to you, but we can go through anything here. I think the intention, Jessica, was to see what we're doing, maybe if people have suggestions, or even just having the discussion of, we see this, we want to look at it further and make suggestions. I don't know where you're at in the process, but any of those things sound good.
would that be a good idea to kind of continue the conversation next meeting? Since
Yeah,
then you can
sure.
both kind of talk about,
Or
I
if
think we
there's
should-
questions.
Yes.
Yeah, we should
I-
talk
there's
about
some
it now.
questions.
Okay.
We can talk,
I,
yes.
yeah, I do have something. I'm wondering if there's a requirement that that staff who deal face-to-face with citizens have to do some DEI training. You know, we have preschool teachers in our organization, and there's a requirement that they have to do X number of equity or, you know, diversity, some kind of DEI training per year. And so I'd like to encourage that because I think that's a valuable program. I think that's a valuable requirement,
Okay.
I guess I would say.
No, not that I'm aware of. Like, you mean like a state, because of the type of program, a state mandated
I don't know if it's.
requirement, or is it like
state-mandated,
the
you know.
organization maybe?
Right,
Okay.
yes, ours is organization,
Okay.
and you can pick what it is. It's not, it just has to be
Sure.
a, you know, certified DEI.
Something about of value though. I
Right,
think there's a spectrum
Right.
of
That
what's out
you-
there.
can learn
Sure.
and grow from.
Okay.
So,
I do know position specific, it does depend a little bit on how much outside training each position has. So like the court clerk goes to training, a couple trainings every year, and almost all organizations now have DEI training
Right.
at the, so I do feel like some positions definitely
Okay.
get that, but a couple of our other positions, I think that the conferences they go to are not that type of conference. They're more like conferences for their programs that they use, so they probably wouldn't have that. So I do think we have a couple employees, and I know CIS at the very least usually has options. I don't know how well they are. I receive a lot of my training at conferences because of the nature of the
Right,
work.
that you maybe have to choose, that's the workshop you want to go to.
Right.
I just would like to encourage that become a bigger part of each position or more positions, especially if you're dealing with the general public.
I was trying to think what Chris was talking about. Was it last meeting or maybe the previous meeting? But I don't recall.
Christopher or Chris Workman?
Working.
He
About-
was saying that they do some trainings, but it doesn't seem like it's DEI training. It seems like you go to a training for your job to, you know.
Not necessarily. I mean, like I receive DEI training. I think Ruth receives that as part of what she does. Chris, certainly. I can't say like finance directors, I don't know what's going on at their, they don't relate to the public a whole lot. But yeah, they crunch numbers. But we definitely have other forward facing positions that I don't know if they're regularly receiving training or if they're even attending a conference that would have that option.
So I think that would be beneficial.
Okay, I'll note that.
Does everyone think that or
I
just?
do.
Anyone else?
Yeah, no,
Feedback
that's
on
fine.
that?
For sure.
I do think like it would be worth trying to figure out what's already happening, because I don't want to like,
Yeah,
I don't want to mandate like all city staff has to do this training, and half of them
Absolutely.
are already doing something else. you know, but
Absolutely.
Just where the gaps are.
right, that's what I
Yeah.
agree, identify the gaps, not invent the wheel.
Right, yeah.
What, I guess when I was looking at this, had Christopher or Ryan had a recommendation to us, I probably would have thought, if you take this subject, and I think it might work to do that by subjects, like job, classifications and descriptions, or as you're talking about here, is that as a group, we would actually look at like all the job descriptions, for instance. Now, I'm not sure anybody else would think that, but I mean, you mentioned in here about things that you did change, like replacing gender coded words and that sort of stuff. But I guess in my mind, it would make sense to have more eyeballs on it. And it seems like if we as a group are trying to, look at city operations and how things are done, we'd need to actually see the product itself.
Mhm.
I mean, this kind of gives us an idea, but it seems like we'd want to look at the job description. Obviously, without the person's name and all that kind of stuff that it's related to. But I mean, that's just my thought.
Can I ask just a point of clarity is, you probably, so at my organization, we update the job. Every job isn't always open. So we don't have a job description posted for every job all the time. But when we do have a job that comes open, that's when we look at that description and refresh it and do update it. So is it worth just that? I mean, do you have some jobs in the city that don't have, like, you're not gonna hire again? Or, I mean, there must be.
I mean,
some positions.
some jobs have been, or eliminate positions have
Right.
been eliminated or changed, modified. The best practices honestly is to keep up with your job descriptions and look
Yeah.
at them every year, because it's not about hiring, there are people in those positions. So if things are changing and you're not keeping that up, that's not being updated.
Good.
So I, as part of this whole lot of work I've been doing for the council, we did a pay equity study with an outside organization, and part of that, we had to update all of our job descriptions. They've all been updated. They've been gone through by that organization that's looking for pay equity issues, and their suggestions were some of these removing, making sure that we're legally, following best legal and best practices. I know just from my knowledge of coming here that there is language that you can put into job descriptions that makes it less appealing to certain people. That definitely a job description that's really old. I think the city manager is the only one that I didn't update, and that's because I believe it's in the charter. So a lot of it is in the charter, and it's a little bit complicated. So I don't think I touched that one because it was a little bit complex.
So is that something that you can?
Well, I guess my reaction to that, and going off kind of what you said, I see where you're coming from. I guess I just hesitate on having this committee be that involved in the minutia of like city administration. I feel like that is staff's job to go through job descriptions at the council and the committee's direction, right? Like, we want to make sure that the job descriptions are accurate and don't have language that discourages certain communities from applying, and make sure that they are inclusive. And then you make that happen. I
Yeah,
don't think
okay.
we should be going through writing, we should not be writing job descriptions as a committee.
There's a lot involved with it.
I
It's
think-
not,
well,
it's
and
not
then-
simply just,
right,
let's
and I
write a
think-
job
I
description,
think
that is, right.
where that then tied, I think the only job, right, I mean, the only job descriptions that the council should be writing are the city manager, the city attorney, and the municipal judge, because those are our only employees.
Oh, Zena's waving. I don't know if she's waving, but I'm
She
sorry.
looks like she's having a lovely
I
sunny.
know that.
I'm jealous.
Well, we're in here.
I guess I'm like, can we be the committee that helps the city like get training so then they can do that kind of stuff themselves? I agree with you, Chris. It's like we don't want to, I don't think that that's what this committee is here to do. I think that it's here to provide that, like, hey, this, let's talk about training, and then it will just become built in as part of this job or whatever job people in our city are doing.
Right, yeah, I mean, because I think it's also important to think about it in terms of like other city functions, right? Like the Public Works Committee does not go out and install a new sewer line. We just say that we would like the sewer lines to be updated, and then the sewer lines are updated, So it's the same thing, like
Is that how you think that happens?
Right.
But we have, yeah, it is, right, because we have city staff that we pay to go out.
I mean, I think in that way, it could be, it could be anybody noticing that kind of thing. Like, we don't have, as many water workers as we need or to support them. But yeah, I mean, I think this committee can be like, we can bring that to the city's attention
Right,
and hope that,
Well, I think that that's a little bit of the question is, there's kind of a list here of how we've done updates. Is there something more specific here that you're like, well, what does that mean? Or what have you actually done? And then we can broaden on that. Or if you have suggestions, right? If you're someone who dabbles in job descriptions and job announcements and have suggestions for that. I think that is good feedback to give and helps. I will tell you right now, I'm personally not interested in looking at job descriptions again for a little bit because I just did them all and no one here has ever done them all. I will tell you that. So, but
Thank you.
that being said, as they come up on, let's review them again.
Right.
It's been a year, or even, recently we've had a couple retirement announcements. And even though I've just done them, we're kind of pulling some things out, seeing our needs, and we do reassess that every time we have kind of a staffing change or a staffing transition of some sort. So
I guess, can we maybe transition the conversation more to the recruitment efforts part of this? Is there any feedback on that? Because I know that's something that's come up a lot. It's just like, oh, are we looking in the right places? So this is where we're looking. What do people think?
Well, that's up for the staff to do. So going back to what I said, I wasn't talking about rewriting job descriptions. That was a silly comment.
I don't think you want to.
If you, the only way that we're going to know those job descriptions are right is that we look at it.
Mhm.
There's all the ordinances the city has that we could look at. I mean, it's all public record. It's not something that, but we as an inclusivity committee, unless we look at everything at some point, we're never going to know that it's okay is in terms of an inclusivity basis. Yes, I can trust her to do that, but even if she's trained to do that, but does that mean that she did it correctly?
So I agree, I understand that intent, but who has the speciality here
Right.
that to look at that
Why do we know
either?
better than her?
Each one of us would, if we looked at it, would each either say, oh, everything's perfect, or Zena's gonna say, well, that's not fair. You shouldn't do it or say it that way.
Okay,
Christopher would say this,
Okay.
maybe come up with something.
I,
The only way you don't, if you don't do it, then you don't do it at all.
so you're suggesting that we just, as a group, review the job positions?
Well, this is what was given to us tonight to talk about.
Right, no, yeah, I'm
But
just trying to,
I would have want to have that same conversation. My point being, one of our goals is to review the city operations
Right.
and make sure they're functioning in a way that this committee believes they should. The only way you're going to do that is you actually read the information.
yeah,
You can't just accept that, oh, that's good enough for me.
okay,
I mean, yes, you can. And if that's the decision, then my recommendation is take that out of what we do and not even do it. If you're not going to do it, then we shouldn't have it in there to do it.
To do what?
So one of our objectives in our committee is to review city documents. That was part A. So to review city documents, including the policies, well, it can't be one person's job. We should all get to see what we're actually reviewing. Yes.
okay, I guess my question would be, there is a lot of legal backing to things like job descriptions. I get a lot of legal review on those. So my question would be kind of like what I think Lori said, what is the expertise here that's reviewing them? So if you're reviewing them, what are you reviewing them against? What are the criteria for reviewing them? And it is a little difficult to hear that you want to review all staff's entire work.
And I kind of was
Because it kind of
wondering,
is that.
is it this more towards the city council's suggestion to us? Like, if do they say, can you guys take a look at this for us? Or
So to respond to that real quick, it's everything. It's taking a look, allowing the Inclusivity Committee to decide what they think is important to look at, to review. And that includes policies and stuff, but that isn't necessarily what we're reviewing here are policies. The reviewing of the job description would be, I would think, not necessarily, that wouldn't be the policy, that would be the outcome of the policy. And I am torn because at the same time, like, I understand the legal aspect of it. And I, at the same time, also understand the want to like verify it and provide suggestions. Personally, I think that there might be other ways that we can attack the, not attack, but get at the review of policies and I don't know, and such. But it was to allow the committee to have some form of independence, but also if the council wants to direct things, then we prioritize council direction. I don't know I hope that answered the question.
Christina had her hand up. but-
Christopher.
Again, maybe I'm just trying to make this more simple than it actually could ever be, but couldn't we just be the committee that again is like, so somebody that has legal knowledge, that's great. Like, let them handle that part. And then we just make sure that we bring the suggestion of, hey, what if we start having these policies again where these kinds of trainings are just part of it. It's built into, moving forward, because I don't know, I come from a family of lots of lawyers, and I don't think we should be getting into so many legal aspects.
Really quickly, I'll just say that I believe Chelsea said that they do receive training and had these documents looked over by professionals who we hired.
No, I guess I'm just like, maybe we can again review these kinds of things and say, hey, there's new opportunities for training. Maybe you've done some training in the past, whatever. This is just, again, building a stronger foundation of, we don't have to remake the wheel every single time, of just, hey, we are reviewing this. What kind of opportunities do we have? That kind of thing. And how can we support people in our community?
Thank you. My suggestion would be, so I have had DEI training. I'm a member of Engaging Local Government Leaders, which is super pro diversity, equity, inclusion. I have been for many years. So personally, I have done a lot of training that maybe other people here haven't. So I just want to start with that, just so that people know that I do not know everything. Some of these things that I'm doing are new to me. I'm always open for suggestions. I think my input is doing this and writing this and doing this work here and absorbing it all from various little pockets here and trying to make it into one department has been a lot of work. It's not done. And so, but there are areas that I see in my job that I would think would be a good place to start or focus with the committee's input. So you could definitely do what you want and come up with your own plan, but I have thoughts on it. I have things that when I look at it and I go through this process, I go, there's some work here to do here in certain areas. It's not job descriptions. I'll just start with that. Not that there are not things there that could be reviewed, but I think if the committee were going to focus on this as a whole, that isn't step one that I would take. I think it just went through review through several people who made suggestions to kind of bring us up to where we should be now. I think that they still need polished up and there are things to change in them. But there are other processes here that I'm still really working on. Like I'm trying to chip away at these things, and those processes are maybe, yes, where are we advertising things? How are we getting the word out? What are the suggestions for doing that kind of fit within what we can do as a city? And then, there's some other things that I'm working on, application processes, having matrices, making sure that things are really an even playing field and that we're not having like bias in any of that process. So to me, doing the work, those are places that I would say I would love to have all of these brains come together with ideas for those things and kind of chip away at those things that I'm still actively trying to update and work on. Job descriptions, not that they're ever done, but they're kind of over here. Like, okay, we did that. Now we're doing this thing. And there are these other things that I just think are more important. And interviewing is another one. When you come anywhere, I think that there's work to be done on that unless you're a larger city that's really been focusing on it. So that's a thing here. I don't think it's bad here. But I do think like there's work to be done there. And like you said, I think I'm trying to work on a way to train the people who are doing the interviews in some appropriate way that seems like it makes sense and will be beneficial. I did on a recent interviewing, like just printed out something and said, we're all going to look at this together. But those are areas for me that, if I were to say what I see coming in, those are the areas that I think would benefit from the most from suggestions from this group, because
Very helpful.
really that it comes down to, sure, you're putting something out there, but it comes down to what's happening when people come in, what's happening when people bring an application in, and what's happening when you're communicating with them. And those to me are the really important things. And I have been working really hard to make sure that those, and again, it's not perfect. I'm still working on it and bringing a bunch of people together and departments together, but really working on that process. And I think that people here have been doing a good job. It just hasn't been really consistent. So there's different practices going on in different departments, and I'm trying to even that. So personally, I would love it if people have suggestions on those things and how we can, you know, do more work toward being just more inclusive and in those areas. So that's just my 2
Thank you.
cents. Long 2 cents.
Thank you for that.
That's good.
And
Christopher,
thank you for the work.
yeah.
Of course.
It's like 20 cents.
Okay. 20
cents.
I think, yes, just going kind of back to what you mentioned about the committee goals. I think some of that, you know, like review city documents and policies, I feel like I was someone who pushed for that to be included. And I think what I was imagining in that was more of like looking at the city charter and at our municipal code. And I mean, you know, the council is going to review the handbook, like those sort of broader, like,
Right.
you know, the things that guide these things. But I feel very strongly that it is not our job to be doing those kinds of administrative tasks, especially when we have someone who we pay money to do them, who probably does know more about this than we do.
I do love.
She does.
Yeah, like the market's hard enough. I don't want to unemploy anybody.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
so I can't agree more. And also thank you for your work.
Of course.
and that's not to say
I love
like,
my work.
of course, any member of the public, including any member of this committee, if you see a job posting on the city website that you think there's something egregious with, please hit up Chelsea.
100%.
Yes.
Yep.
I don't think that's something that we should do as a committee. I think we should set our expectations. Because I think one thing you said kind of confused me, Van, where you're like, we trust city staff, but we are going to go line by line and review every piece of their work, which I guess, so what, that doesn't feel like we trust them, then, I guess is my concern.
You're not going to be able to do anything without reading the information.
Yes, but.
So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. I think, you know, I think my thing is we have to trust them. And if we don't trust them, the solution is not to go line by line through their work. The solution is to find different staff. Like that's just how it works, right? You have to trust the cook in your kitchen, and if the food is not up to par, you don't go in the kitchen and start making the food. You tell them to make the food better, and if they don't, you reevaluate who's in the kitchen. But yeah.
Or again, like, be like, hey, you need to take a cooking class.
Sure.
We want to support you. Go back to community college. You know, I think that's, again, kind of trying to meet people where we're at, and then be like, let's take this further.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
I think we all agree there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that I am also trying to work on having a better forward-facing human resources retention benefits aspect. I've been wrapped up in a lot of behind the scenes things, but I want to get job descriptions on the website. More cities are doing that now. So pretty soon you will be able to look at them all at your leisure. And I'm reachable, I'm busy, but honestly, seriously, if anyone out there is like, what is this garbage on here, please get a hold of me and let's have a conversation. I tell people that all the time.
Do you want us to not say garbage though?
I mean, if you want, I can handle it. But I'm,
over lunch so that you're
sure, maybe just like ease it in. But I absolutely welcome feedback and like to have conversations with people about things. So that is coming though. It doesn't directly relate to here, but it kind of does, like getting that out there. it's a good thing, you know, it shows that we're not hiding things. We have new union contracts coming up. I can't tell you how many times other cities and people say, can I have a copy of your union contract? And I can't wait until we have new ones because I will put them online and I will say they are on our website.
Yeah.
Here is the link. So we're doing that as well, which will help because it is out there and it gives everyone, not just you, but everyone the ability to look at things and say, what are we doing here? We need to look at that next time.
Great.
Yeah, so.
I also think that it's a cool way for people to be like, maybe that will be my job one day. You know, how do I get into that?
Sure.
Or how do I connect with that? That seems really cool. I think it's important. Again, we're not a huge city that we work with and display, again, what you said about openness, so that people feel more connected.
Jessica.
Just really quickly, time check, it is 6:32. But something that I got to wondering about, and thank you so much, Chelsea, for all of this. And yeah, and sorry that we didn't really have a good guided conversation.
It's okay. We're
Wasn't
doing it now.
expecting to do it. But anyway, the thing I wondered about was if we track demographics in different positions and whether that would be a good thing to, well.
You
I
mean
know-
who's currently hired? and
Yeah,
what
demographics
they're
of-
do- What they're doing.
Yeah, for the different job sectors, the departments or whatever, and just being able to track how that changes over time with,
So we do not, I think that's a requirement or more of a requirement as you get over 50 employees. There's a 50 threshold
okay,
for having different information, but I don't hold me to that, but I'll look into it.
okay,
Because we don't do that currently. I will say that I got a new human resources software that's kind of in line with our payroll software.
Mhm.
I have not been able to get in there and utilize it yet, but I think it has some ability to do things like that. So in the future, you know,
Is that an optional choice? Because we can ask our staff, but we can't have them tell us, you know, with the board too. You know, it's
Right.
It's not mandatory that they tell us how, you know,
That's true.
how they identify or any of their demographics.
right. So it is a little challenging and I know there are legal implications and
Right.
to that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, but I mean, I guess it could be difficult because people said, I don't want to do that. It's not going to get very
I'm
good
just wondering,
representation.
'cause it
Right.
is optional for sure for us.
Right.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think any data is good data.
Yeah.
Agreed.
As a
I
scientist.
100% agree with that, yes.
Including the missing data.
I just want to say on your note of it's not the best guided conversation. I do apologize that Oriana was not able to, that we weren't able to meet. So I appreciate the conversation very much. I will take all this back when we are able to meet. And that we can touch base on that and come back with some more at our next meeting.
But I will say that this has been a very interesting
Mhm.
meeting because we've all been talking and discussing things and not worried, you know, not being super silent and just focusing on, you know, just the minimal amount of words. We're actually having conversations. It's like, yes, this is so much fun. This is what this is why I'm here. Anyway. Okay.
And then can I just ask a question about, because somebody had talked about looking at the recruitment efforts. Is this because we're not getting the number of applications received that we want? Or, I mean, like, is there a suggestion to make this list bigger or?
I don't know. Do
There
you know
was-
more about that? Jessica? I was just asked to write this down. I don't
Okay.
actually know the why behind it. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I think part of it was just there's been concerns by some council members I think it's specifically been about the police department, but it might apply to other
Okay.
departments about
Mhm.
a lack of female employees.
Okay.
And so this was kind of to show that like we do outreach to female potential recruits. And so like, you know, if there's more we can do, we're happy to, but just to show like it's not, the city is aware that, you know, that's an issue and the city is trying to find more. It's just, you know,
Okay.
there may be other issues that make this not an attractive destination for female recruits, but it's not for a lack of going out there and making them aware that this is a potential destination.
I asked the same question for, well, not necessarily about women, but just in general for when we were hiring the new finance director and
Okay,
stuff
yeah,
like that too.
Yeah. So I think that's, and Oriana and I can talk about it too, and we can talk with Chelsea, but just, you know, like, is the problem the application and recruitment process, or is the problem something else, you know?
Okay.
Because it can be the world's best application and recruitment process, but if they look at what they're applying and being recruited for and don't want it, then it doesn't matter how good the application recruitment process is, you know?
And so you don't do the basic, just LinkedIn and those kind of, you know, like Nextdoor or whatever, not Nextdoor, what's that one?
Indeed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed, we don't use Indeed. It's actually really difficult for cities to use because it allows direct applications
Okay.
and people get missed a lot. It isn't, I'm open to it as an idea.
Because we get a lot of people
From
on
Indeed.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think we have used it on occasion for certain positions. So I think that's the other thing that I have noticed. Well, and it's a question. Recruitment is expensive.
Yes.
Do you use the same recruitment for every single position, or do you take things into consideration? You do take things into consideration, right? I might put something on the Finance Directors of America site. If we're leaving the finance director, I'm not going to do that for a utility worker. So that's hard, just to know how much effort and expense and where you're putting certain types of positions.
And maybe up the line item for recruitment too, because it is.
I did this
Because
year.
it used to be
Yeah.
free and now it's not.
It's
And
not
even
free. It's expensive. Yeah.
All of the free sites aren't free anymore.
I
so-
know. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Zena?
Oh, I was just gonna say with like things with recruitment, I think you can, yes, we want to have the best people that we can get and we want to do all that, but I think that there's a lot of recruitment that could just be done here, like offer somebody, you know, hey, this is the starting position, learn, do all that, you know. You don't have to leave Philomath. You can, there's jobs waiting for you. I think that, yeah, there's lots of people here that we haven't maybe reached out to or haven't connected with.
Do you have suggestions, Zena, for?
Yeah, so I mean, it's lame, but it's kind of like again, let's see what people do for a day. Or I know Rose and I both went through Philomath Citizens Academy, and it was really, really interesting. And again, maybe offering this as some programs or just meet, you know, what do people do in our city? You know, meet the city manager for a day kind of thing. Here's what this person does. Get excited, I guess. Rose, I see your hand.
Does the city do any kind of engagement with the school as in, like, I know they have the forestry classes that they can transition to do at OSU, but what about keeping it the interest more local in Philomath?
By engagement, what do you mean specifically? Like
Well,
internship program?
Internships, having groups of students come through the city hall and meet with Chris, meet with you, kind of get an understanding of how city government works, more engagement with the school so that there's like a segue into becoming a city employee.
Yeah, or just not even, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Amy.
I didn't see you, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think there are some aspects of that going on. So I know Public Works does some outreach for sure. And then our police department has connections with the school. I don't want to say it has not happened here because I've only been here for a year and a half, so I will not say that. Since I have been here, I've not seen that going on here, but I also know that a lot of things really with COVID went totally haywire and probably haven't all caught up again. But I have taken information to the schools when we've had job postings that say like the seasonal park worker. I tried really hard last year. I went down and talked to the high school staff and was like, where can we get this and share this? And they said, yeah, here, we'll take the flyer. I don't know what they did with it. So I did make an attempt. I'm not sure how to infiltrate that aspect.
I think they probably put it on the bulletin board.
I do know that there's
Okay.
you pointed.
No, I did,
I'm
but
sorry.
that was before everybody. Go ahead.
I know that there used to be a career day that the middle school had and the police, the different folks. A lot of stuff did change during COVID and, screeched to a halt. And so I think that will continue or, start up again. But, and then also, if there's local health and safety fairs and stuff, a lot of staff do, just as an example, a lot of staff do show up to that. So, and yes, the high school does the best they can, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how they function.
I think it's
but
best to email the counselors.
I'm gonna try it again. I'll tell
Email
you
the counselors.
the position coming up.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
You can also contact ASB because they're the ones that do
Okay.
the
Yes, that
Okay.
is correct.
That's great.
Yeah.
Email is definitely the best way to go.
Yeah.
With those positions.
Okay. Zena, did you still have your hand up?
No, I was just gonna say again, I think if we could have more programs, especially during the summer. I know if any of your neighborhoods are like mine, kids are just roaming the streets. And like, again, having something that they can come like do in the summer and see how the city works, or, how to become more involved again. That's, I guess. So I think that there's things that we're doing, but I think now that COVID is whatever it is, I think it would be great to start offering some more things like,
Maybe create a training program, for youth, and they could do something a week long, something
Yeah.
for a few hours a day, what that would look like or something.
right. And I think it's cool because then it also gives somebody a resume builder. I don't know, after COVID, you might have some empty years there. So it gives people a chance, whether that's community victory gardens or, hey, do you guys want to, learn about our water treatment systems, all of that kind of thing. Let's really open that as an easy thing to get into.
Right.
Yeah, those are some good avenues to take a look at. Alrighty, we move along. So I guess before we leave tonight, then do we have enough time to Zena and Dan, do you want to talk about the calendar? What you're
Do you want to talk, Zena, or do you want me to?
By all means, please.
Me? Okay, I will. Well, we met a couple of times and came up with this list as far as doing proclamations. And probably this, as I thought about it after we did it, it probably looks pretty ambitious as far as putting out proclamations, but the one thing that Zena and I talked about was that, well, once we have some in place or have them put together, it's much less work to review it and then, send it out again. We're not saying you don't review it, and just send the same one out every year. That's not what we was looking for. But that's how we came up with this list. And we went through the big list that we had in the draft and picked the one thing that we felt like was maybe the biggest thing, and tried to make sure, because there are a lot of them that have multiple different months and days and such that are related. And so we came up with, well, just like February, the Black and African American History Heritage Month. I mean, there's several things about race in different months. And we just picked the ones that we felt were the best ones, like on the national, in October, the Indigenous Peoples' Day. We talked to the mayor about that. Although there is a Indigenous Peoples Month, he felt that this was, at least here in Oregon, is the more important one. And so we picked that one. Of course, that would happen to be one that there was a proclamation last year.
Sorry, I'm just jumping in. I thought that we had agreed that would be, yes, the day, but also the month to kind of just, yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
it can be that, right. I was just going by what the particular thing said, but yes, you're right, Zena. On the events, we didn't say what they would be, but we felt like the LGBTQ Pride Month, I mean, was already an event last year, and our understanding is that it's being planned again for this year, that we could better associate ourselves with. There was the Veterans Day event we worked with the American Legion and did that. So we was thinking, well, that would be a good one to continue. And then we came up with adding an event for Black Heritage Month. And Zena had indicated that she has, ideas about that and would be, willing to work on it. So that's how we came up with the events. But like I said, initially, I can see this as ambitious for the proclamations. But what does everybody else think about it? What we came up with?
Well, good work. I think it's, yeah, and I think what you're saying is exactly right, that once this work is done, we can edit it, each year, and then it can reflect whatever changes need to happen. So.
Yeah, this is always, I was hoping that, again, this is a living document and things will change. And it was really hard to choose or even say, it's hard to prioritize. So I think, yeah, as much fun as we can have, as many events, whatever. I don't know. I hope people will say, hey, this doesn't work for me going through it, or, because again, we're just two people. So I'd love to hear what people think.
It was good.
We have a proclamation in place for our Black History Month and our Indigenous Peoples Day already in place, and our Veterans Day. So those are three that we already have in place. And along with the proclamations are just, I don't know, I look at those and it's just this very formal document that, maybe I don't understand, but I'm wondering if maybe in some of these areas, working on informational pieces for the public would be a better format. So if we're working on something to where we're giving a little bit of information, a little bit of knowledge out there that we don't, that most people in the area don't know about, might be a little bit more useful, like a, you know, like a threefold pamphlet or something that's giving, that's pulling people together. I don't know.
Yeah, like a link, if to find out more information, you could link a couple of sites to.
Well, on these proclamations themselves, yeah, and I don't know what the backstory is, but normally the mayor signs a proclamation. Does the city council actually approve them? Okay, the city council approves them. And I really don't know, and are you familiar if, like, when it's put on the website or whatever, is there any backstory that goes with it? It's just the proclamation.
Yes.
So at least that's what goes on now, but I think you make a good point. If there's information there.
I think it would be great if we could have, again, the proclamation. Here are some helpful links. Here are some of the ways to get involved around these kinds of things. Or here, I mean, again, Veterans Day, here are some events that are happening. I think that the calendar is just, again, we need to get a calendar together as kind of intention. And then as we grow from that, we can have speakers come, we can do other things that build more of a backbone.
Mm-hmm. And I think the calendar that we have is just a good outline or a good list of things that we can get into as we go along.
And then I heard Chris say that the way that they design the proclamation is maybe they look at what the
White House.
White House is saying and then kind of use that
White House and or other places.
official government.
Oh, yeah,
It's a good baseline.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not
Uh-huh.
totally made up from scratch. Yeah,
You don't have to come up with wordsmith that.
I don't think so.
Chris, go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say that I think they're both important, even though they are kind of a formal document, because they do go through the council.
Agreed.
And not as many people come to council meetings as they used to, but we hope people are watching and paying attention. And the council, I know, is working on getting more people to come. So I think they're both good methods.
We just have to rezone more plots of land.
Okay.
I don't agree with that. I can't agree with
How
that.
about that?
Nah, I don't agree with that at all. I think Rose has her hand up.
I did have a question earlier. I don't know if it's, can we have these approved all at once by the council so that then they're just put on the calendar, or do we have to get them? Because it seems like it's a time-consuming process to get them approved, and sometimes they don't make it.
About that part, I was thinking about that too. In my head, if we did all this many, is, well, we may not be starting until, September, October, or something like that. Is that kind of initially in some form, we would, find those proclamations that exist out there and make a draft of them and kind of work on them, not necessarily in a hurry, but so that we can get them organized and have them and then look at them, a few months before. And of course, the council, we're going to be asking them they're gonna be the ones that, so to speak, do the work or approve them at the very least. And the mayor, that we would have them basically ready, in advance, a few months. And once we have them, have done them for a year, we're just going back and look at them and.
But we're doing that each month. That's my question. So are we looking at this as?
Sorry, Rose has had her hand up for a while.
I'm sorry, Kim.
I'm good. I'm just waiting for the conversation to.
Like Rose is, we don't have a picture or,
I'll stop typing and look on here. I can see it in here.
Okay.
sorry, Rose.
I'm sorry to interrupt the conversation. I was just waiting for my turn.
I'm sorry, we didn't see your hand.
We can't see your hand on the screen. Sorry, Rose. I can
Oh,
see
no
now.
worries.
We're not
Um,
on purpose.
What I was gonna say, thank you to Van and Zena for making the list. I think it's an awesome list and I appreciate your work on it. I was wondering, was skipping August like a break in the middle of the year kind of intentional, or was wondering about that? And then I was also wondering about the intention, was the proclamation, were you guys thinking of having a proclamation for every month, or just improving on the proclamations that already exist?
Okay, the August thing was the ones that at least are in the on the list that we have. There's already something else that is related, not, maybe it isn't exactly it, but there's Women's Equality Day. There's International Day for Remembrance of the Slave Trade, International Day of the World's Indigenous People. So those are things that are at some level is addressed with potentially these other proclamations. So, and I don't have access to any others, but that was the only three that was mentioned in August. And so we didn't put one there. What was your second question?
I was wondering if the proclamation, or is the intention to create a proclamation for every month that we're celebrating a significant
Oh, right, yeah.
thing, or is it just using the proclamations that already exist and improving on them because they're living documents?
Right, your second point. Yeah, we wouldn't totally start all over again every month with every proclamation. It would be taking existing ones, improving upon them, and actually, but still, even in advance, having that, so to speak, ready. And maybe not even necessarily needing to relook at it every month, one every month. If we, adopted them all, this group, or maybe twice a year or something like that. I mean, we didn't talk about this at all, but if we had them ready and then to go to the council, by having this would automatically happen. We wouldn't per se have to do anything.
I wonder if we could use like for the months that we don't have a proclamation already existing, maybe lean more on the Facebook or going online kind of efforts from the city. So putting out a link to the significance of whatever month is being honored, even connecting with stuff that's happening in the community, like specific groups, maybe schools or OSU is having some sort of Pacific Islander event that the city could cross promote.
Yeah, well, I think that's basically what Zena was saying in reference to the chair's comment about it.
Yeah. I think that this gives us opportunities to connect again with people in our community around these things. I think this is a placeholder, and I think that they should be proclamations that we don't have to, again, rebuild the wheel. We're just taking it, it's a living document. you know, that's kind of what I was hoping for. And then technically August is self-care. And I think that, yeah, there's a lot of other things that happen. Every day there is something that we can remember. Does that answer your question, Rose?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I'm gonna interrupt because it is past 7, and I appreciate all of your work. Thank you so much. I would say, since we don't, for the sake of time, perhaps we should decide on some, I would guess perhaps work on July, because as we have stated before, it usually takes about 3 months ahead of time. So would anyone, assuming July is good, I guess, are there any objections to the to Independence Day? Using that as,
I do not object.
are there any volunteers who would like to try to write some of that up?
Well, I'd be willing to research it. I assume, like you guys have said, these exist out there.
They do.
And I'd be happy to, do a first run at it, so to speak, and then bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay. That would be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Van. And, oh, that was the other thing. I was like, there's one more thing. The Inclusivity Proclamation, the one that started it all, that's one that we have to also review. And I believe that one would be an August one.
Oh,
So,
it'll be August.
I believe it's August, if I
Oh,
remember
okay,
correctly. So
there
that
we
would
go.
be perfect. But yeah, okay, cool.
Is everybody generally okay with this? And with the caveat that we're gonna put together links and events that goes along with the proclamation.
Yes.
I mean, I think that seemed to be a very good idea that was brought up.
And that it will be slightly different next year. And slightly different the year. I mean, for instance, there's no like autism awareness or any kind of.
Yeah,
anything
there
like
are,
that.
yeah, there are things that
I
like
mean,
that wasn't.
which is just to point that out. I mean, like, so then next year we would want to maybe change it ever so often. Or,
Yeah.
This is good. I would like to,
Okay.
if we're doing consensus, I'm like, yes,
Okay,
let's
two
move forward with
consensus.
this. I'm doing it at 2 consensus.
Wow.
Good job, Van and Dina.
Yeah.
Good job, Van and Dina.
Okay. Well, I guess with,
Any topics, any other topics to talk about at our next meeting besides?
Sorry, guys, just real quick.
Mhm.
Philomath Pride is happening June 11th from 1 to 4. Whoop, whoop. We're gonna have a planning meeting on May 11th at 6 p.m. over Zoom. And I can email Jessica the link to that. And then if you can get it out to anyone who's interested.
On June 11th,
June 11th is the Pride event at City Park.
City Park.
And May 11th is the Zoom meeting. It's a planning meeting, like a workshopping at 6 p.m. on May 11th.
okay,
And then the Pride event is June 11th, 1 to 4 at the Randy Kugler shelter.
okay.
Cool beans. Topics for next meeting
Very cool.
besides the proclamation? Any ideas?
Oh,
And update, I suppose.
Sorry.
Update.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Sorry. I got distracted. I will have an update.
How dare you be distracted?
You and Oriana.
Yes,
can
yes.
have-
we will
We'll have recommendation.
Well, yes, we will have, yes.
Something, you will have done something.
Yes. I think it might be, I think we're gonna talk about things that are slightly different than what you're.
Oh, yeah,
about, but
just in
yes.
general.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the original.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Let me know ahead of time
Alrighty.
if you need any follow-up on anything related to that.
Yes.
But I really appreciate all of the input and ideas, and I am emailing the counselors this year for sure. So that was a good tip. And ASB.
Oh.
Good job.
I know.
No, not our counselors, sorry, school. I'm
Sorry,
thinking
new
school.
email.
I'm thinking, you know, we have
You're right,
the
you're right.
seasonal park worker. And I tried really
I'm just saying,
hard to
whenever I
get
want-
someone local.
I'm biased as a former ASB
Yeah,
president,
me
but
too.
whenever I want any information put out to the students,
Yeah.
just skip the staff, just go straight to ASB.
ASB.
Yeah.
Okay. Good tips, thank you.
I can comment that offline, so.
That's not sketchy.
Well, you're not
They-
president
That's
anymore.
true.
But you don't know their
Adjourn.
email. Do
Yeah.
they- Do they have student?
Thank you,
contact?
everyone.
With all this, thank you everyone for attending.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
It's just first name,